Scott Burke, and Senior Vice President Global Service at Elekta, Martin Gilday.
Good morning. Well, we've been hearing today so far some very interesting stories about companies and the different paths that they've taken on this journey of digital transformation. Along with Martin Gilday, our customer from Elekta here today, I want to spend a few minutes talking about that journey as it relates to field service. Now, field service has been going through a fairly rapid transformation. It was only maybe 4 or 5 years ago that most of us would have thought of field service as a cost center. And in that light, most companies would have focused very heavily on squeezing cost out of it, driving efficiency, driving out open gaps in calendars to try and get the most possible amount of work done with the fewest amount of people and the least amount of parts in quantity and value. Now, today, in the age of net promoter scores and customer transformation, I think more and more companies have realized service is a differentiator. About 4 or 5 years ago, it was an Elekta engineer who said to me that you'll buy your first product from your sales rep and your next 10 from your field service engineer. There's this very unique experience that service has in representing the brand and the face of your company. If you look at leading edge companies today, the very best and brightest, they've gone to this sort of third stage of evolution, and that is where service becomes the product. Let's face it, what our customers really want is to sell them an outcome, the result of it. Not really so much to worry about how many machines or how many assets they acquire, but the results that they'll produce. And today's leading edge companies with regard to field service are those that have really flipped things around and turned the service itself into the product. And GE is a living, breathing example of this. Look at our financials and you'll see the obvious evidence of a strong contribution of field service in our profit and the overall revenues of the company. As we look at this, really this transformation around service requires a pretty heavy dose of technology if it's done right. GE is really no stranger on the operations side to connecting our machines with our machines with sensors, collecting data from those. Patrick spoke this morning and gave us some great examples about how a unique platform is required, Predix in this case, to make sense of all this data that's coming in and have a true industrial Internet of Things platform in which to operate on and build applications. Today we announced on the Insights front a very unique integration between ServiceMax and Asset Performance Management to make sense of the data that's coming in from machines, the service activities that are performed in the field, and be very predictive about maintenance activity. And last but not least, IoT is great technology. We need this machine data, but in the end, we still need people to go out and take actions and make those repairs. And in the world with ServiceMax and all of these great GE digital assets, what we're doing is maybe making more informed decisions about when to take action on service and arm that service technician with the best possible information. All of this really, and in the end, is very focused essentially on eliminating downtime, keeping a machine running. And with that, I'll join Martin here. Maybe, Martin, you could start off by telling us a bit about Elekta. We saw the video as we walked up, but
Sure.
Tell us a bit about your business.
So Elekta is a medical technology company. We make radiation therapy machines for the treatment of cancer and brain disorders. So thousands of medical facilities around the world have our equipment, over 150 countries. And really the focus for our service organization is around uptime. Elekta was very much a product development organization, and it's all about product innovation. But now we're really seeing that service innovation is coming to the fore as well, particularly with the ability to predict maintenance events.
So I think your example is a great one about a digital transformation journey. Maybe take us through what some of the big drivers are for the company to really focus in this area. And then I think we've got a great example we want to share about
Sure.
The impact of predictive service on your patients.
The key driver is really around customer experience, and a typical treatment regime would see a patient come in for a short period of radiation treatment, maybe 10 or 12 minutes, A clinic, therefore, is scheduling a lot of patients on that particular machine on that particular day. So maybe there's 30 or 40 patients on that machine. Imagine the situation if the machine fails and the amount of disruption that occurs. So our driver is twofold, really. Firstly, the customer experience in maintaining the uptime of the machine, but also in the efficiency of our service organization. So going to a scheduled activity where we know what we're going to do is obviously a lot more efficient than going to an unscheduled one.
Yeah. As I said, Martin, you shared with me a great experience you guys have had. Talk to me about the importance of predictive, on service, and I know we've got a great example here on how you're utilizing that today.
We've got over 80% of our installed base is connected to our remote services platform. We've got an application called IntelliMax. It's connected on a global platform, and then we use ServiceMax as our service management application. And we've been developing the capability to take the data that we receive from the machine, along with the expertise of some of our technicians, and really predict when a failure is going to happen. As we've been developing this capability, you see one of the examples here on the screen. This is related to the vacuum system in the machine. It's a particularly complex part of the machine. If you get a failure and the vacuum system is compromised, it's a long job to repair that, to bring that back to clinical use. In this particular case, we can predict a failure occurring, but as we were developing that, there were situations where we identified a fault, we went to the customer, scheduled the event, and resolved the issue. There were also situations where we didn't get there in time. So it gave us the opportunity to compare the difference between a predictive failure and a non-predicted failure. And what we found was there was a significant improvement both for the customer and for us. So something like 75% reduction in downtime for the customer, 50% reduction in spare parts cost, and 60% labor hours saved. So really was a true win-win scenario, both for the customer and for ourselves.
Yeah, it's a great example of, I think, whether fixing things too early or too late are both bad outcomes, I think, for you as a company and for your customers and patients also. And maybe we could close, Martin, by telling a bit about your experience, and you're a long-term ServiceMax customer for field service management, and the impact that that's had in conjunction with this sort of predictive capability.
I think the opportunity here is to automate the whole process. So as I mentioned, we have a remote services application. It's connected to a PTC global platform, and we use ServiceMax as our service management application. So that enables us to have both reactive, proactive, and predictive support. With reactive support, when the customer calls in, if the machine's connected, we're able to resolve about 25% of the issues without needing to send an engineer to site. We can record all of that activity in ServiceMax, obviously. For the proactive side of the business, when certain conditions are reached, we can alert the field service engineer to a problem. We raise a case in the service management system, and the engineer attends the site. And for the predictive ones, obviously, as per the example, we're confident that it's going to fail within a short period of time. And so, again, we raise a case in the system, alert the engineer, he attends the site. I think what's available for the future is to automate that whole process. Today we do still have quite a lot of technicians involved in that event. Once we can automate it, that's going to allow us to do 24-hour support of our entire base.
That's great. Well, thank you, Martin. And listen, we're grateful for your customer confidence in us and the solution, really being a pioneer with us at ServiceMax, and also being a pioneer in the med device and life science industry. And I think this is a great example for everybody. Many companies ask us sort of how to start these digital transformation journeys, and hopefully you get a good sense from Martin today that field service is one of those sort of low-hanging fruit opportunities where you can begin a journey like this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.